Today we're going to talk about centrifuges. So over here we have our swinging bucket rotor centrifuge. The on-off toggle switch is on the back. I've already turned it on, and I came around and I pushed the open button. The open button opening the lid, and you can see I already have two of the inside holders out with the lids sitting here. I always set the lids right here to remind myself to always make sure they're put back on, so I can't close this up and run it until these are back on. So over here, I've got my holders ready to go, but first let's talk about tubes a little bit. These are my 5 tubes. I got these tubes, they came into the lab and they all need to be spun before we can process them the way they're supposed to be processed. When we get these tubes, things you have to think about when you're balancing, the height of the tubes. You can see I got 2 different heights here. Sometimes they have different types of lids. You want to match lids to lids. The other thing when you're looking at these for best practices, now this is best practice, not every place is going to follow this, but I've got some that have gels, some that have nothing, and then this guy's kind of a special one because he's got a tube within a tube. So there's a little glass tube inside the plastic tube of the sodium citrate. And in your phlebotomy course, you'll learn why that is so important. So when we start to balance the actual centrifuge, we're going to start and we're going to take our buckets here. I highly recommend when you start it this way, where you've got the 3 on the top and the 4 on the bottom, and you set them up exactly alike, 3 on the top and 4 on the bottom. You're going to set them right next to each other exactly alike. Now, I know when you go in, you're going to have to have this whole thing and balanced. Trust me on this. This is going to work really slick. First thing I'm going to do is going to take the first tube. So the reds are the samples I'm going to be drawing, or going to be spinning, and then I have to find a balance tube. So here I've got the same types of lids, no gel, no inside tube. I'm going to pop this lid off, and I'm going to use my balance water. You can see here I've got balance water, and I'm going to adjust the volume so it matches. So when they're spinning, they're going to actually match. Put the lids back on, and then I'm going to put them in exactly the same spot in my rotor buckets. Next one I'm going to grab is this guy here. This is our heparin tube, and you can see my balance tube for it. Oh, there's a little too much. That's okay. We're going to take it off, and I'm going to pull out some of that fluid until we are balanced across. Now you notice my balance water says balance water on it. Always make sure everything in your racks have labels. Now, these guys, same thing. I'm going to put them in exactly the same spot. I can pick any spot I want as long as they are in the exact same spot. My sodium citrate tube, that's my tube in a tube. I'm going to be able to pull that out. Now, one thing you'll note with this tube, the sodium citrate tube has to be at a certain volume. It is very, very specific where it needs to be at the same volume in order to for the dilution factor to work right for the test. So it's very specific. So usually when you grab your balance for this one, if you have the right amount in the draw, it should be balanced right off the top. I'm going to put that one, let's put it in the middle, okay? So now I've got my next tube. There's nothing in the bottom, but it's a tall tube. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab this one. Caps don't match, but it doesn't matter because we have nothing else in it. They're the same type of tube. But obviously I need more fluid in them to get them to balance out. So I'm going to come over and take my balance and I'm going to fill it. I'm going to take a couple. There's a lot in this tube. And I'm going to set them up so they're balanced. Put the lid back on. And I'm going to set those 2 right there. And then my last tube has gel, so I want to balance it with one that has gel. I'm going to have to take a little bit of the fluid out. Okay, again, we always add and subtract from our balance tubes, not from the tubes that are our patient tubes. And we'll put those right there. So now, if I were to put these in the centrifuge just like this, we're problems because they are not balanced across from each other. Remember those homeworks you did where you kind of filled in the circles? But look at this. If I take this and I turn it 180 degrees, now they're balanced exactly across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one in that side. I'm going to come over, I'm going to get this one, and I'm going to put it in that side. And now those two are exactly balanced across from each other. Next thing I'm going to do is put my lids on. You always want to make sure your lids are all on tight. And you're going to see here, I'm actually making sure my lid covers are all pointed the same way. So when I go to spin it, they're all pointed down. This again is best practices for your centrifuge to be balanced. Now you're ready to close the lid. And in this guy, we'll use the 01. Make sure you follow the guidelines for the types of tubes and what you need to spin. And I can go ahead and start this guy. 10 minutes. It's going to be 10 minutes at 2,700 RPM. You always want to stay next to it while it's starting up to make sure as it gets up to speed that it somehow doesn't become off balance. So when it's spinning, you know it's going to be good to go. Once you're to this point, you are set, and at the end of 10 minutes, you can take them out and process them.